careers and talked about some of their insight with all of you. After tonight, we're also hosting a flagship program tomorrow called the Burgess New Venture Challenge. Who's planning to be there? Wonderful, excellent. That is our premium campus-wide student business model competition. We'll have 15 student semifinalists vying for upwards of $50,000 in grant funds. So super excited about tomorrow's program. I think at last count we had north of 300 people registered for tomorrow's event. It is open to the public, free to attend at the Graduate East Lansing Hotel in downtown East Lansing. So if you haven't registered, there's still a chance, there's still time. Please join us tomorrow. Last year we hosted 400 people, and we hope to have even more this year. So please join us tomorrow evening. Lastly, we also have a pre-accelerator program called Momentum that welcomes student teams in our venture creations ecosystem to apply for a really unique 6-week accelerator program that we run here at Michigan State. And it's for very early stage student venture teams. Each team that's accepted, we typically accept 5. There's a $5,000 grant that goes to the team, and we run a really robust 6-week curriculum filled with guest speakers, resources. We even travel a little bit, take you to other markets to expose you to other entrepreneurs and potential investors. So the application deadline for Momentum is in fact this Friday. And you can find more information at our website if you just go to eship.msu.edu and you look for the tab for Entrepreneurship Innovation Week. If you click there, you'll find all the content about Momentum. It takes you right to the application. So if you're thinking about applying and you're working on a venture right now as part of a team, we'd encourage you to consider applying for that. Again, the deadline is this Friday. So I'm just really thrilled to welcome all of you tonight to join in tonight's conversation. We have a special treat this evening. Our guest traveled a few miles to get here, making his way from India to spend multiple days on campus with our program and all of our students. So really gracious and thankful for you spending your time with us. I know you have a family, and so taking you away from family in your native country for a few days is certainly a big time commitment. Ankur Warikoo is an alumnus of Michigan State, studied astrophysics, so he went really like the light route for academics here at Michigan State, and graduated nearly 20 years ago, and has only been back to campus, I think once, or at least most recently about 7 years ago. So he's enjoying the campus sights and sounds and seeing how things have changed over the years. He's a serial entrepreneur who had a serendipitous meeting traveling to Chicago with the founders and the executive team at Groupon in Chicago, and was able to identify an opportunity to essentially run Groupon in India and create the hub there. And grew that team over 4 to 5 years to upwards of north of 1,100 employees that were working as part of the operation that he was running as CEO. And then had an opportunity to essentially do a management buyout and was able to create, essentially from scratch, as he might tell you about in a little bit, an entirely new entity that was nearby.com. And after 4 years of running that, stepped down as CEO, and now splits his time in a multitude of ways, not the least of which is content creator, running an ed tech platform, and supervising a team of 9 employees, and then also investing, coaching, and mentoring other startups along the way. So just a few things. But I think what's really unique about him, how many of you are following tonight's guest on social, some type of social platform? Awesome. So I found out today that he's kind of a celebrity. So it's the first time I've taken speakers across campus where they're stopping me to not take pictures of me, but to take pictures of our guest because he is so well renowned and regarded. But just really a delightful human that's genuine, authentic, and has tons of amazing insight to share with our students that I think you'll really find to be profound, and I hope you take away a lot of things from tonight's conversation. So without further ado, if you can join me in welcoming my colleague, Aaron Richard, who'll be moderating tonight's conversation, and our alumni guest, Ankur Warikoo.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
I'm going to take that. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. So glad to see you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
What day is this for you?
This is my 5th day in the U.S. and the first day on Michigan State.
Oh my goodness.
Campus.
How long of a journey is it from where you're?
It's a 16-hour flight.
Good Lord, that's a long flight. So let's just kick it off. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Delhi, which is the capital city of India, and that's where I've spent most of my time. I've worked there almost all my life, except for a few years that I was at Michigan State and my business school degree, but out and out Delhi.
So can you tell me about your family?
Yeah, my immediate family, I have 2 kids and a wife. My kids are aged 11, boy, 5-year-old girl. We stay close to both our parents, and I have a younger sister who is also an academic, a professor at Delhi University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How did your childhood and your family shape or prepare you to be who you are today, which I would describe as a vibrant, strong, and determined entrepreneur?
So to give you a context, I was born in 1980, and the world back then was very different. Certainly India was a very different country. I belong to a very, very humble background. My dad was a sales and marketing professional in a pharmaceutical company. My mom was a primary school teacher. We never had enough money growing up. It was like hand-to-mouth existence. And there was frankly nothing that set us apart uniquely in terms of where we would finally end up in life. Very normal household, very normal upbringing, certainly on a very strong set of values, but nothing beyond that. And I think the one thing that I learned, which I have always deeply benefited from, is the lack of money while growing up set us up in a way where either of 2 things happen. And I don't know how many of you had a childhood where you didn't have enough money. You either spend all of your life chasing money because it becomes the core driver of what you craved for and you felt you never had, or what strangely might also happen is that you spend your entire life trying to go beyond money, which is like you don't want to, and you have like a FU attitude towards money. I wouldn't become a slave to you, and so on. I don't know why either of these 2 options happen to people and what makes them choose, but one thing that I can certainly say is that because we had no money growing up, and my parents were always just so lovely and comfortable and smiling and easygoing, despite that I grew up wanting to go beyond money and never wanting to allow money to take over my life or any of my decisions. So even when we are really comfortable right now and we don't have to think about money, it's never really any reason for me to do anything in life. And that's so liberating, because the minute you do not allow money to supersede any of your decisions, you realize that there is so much that you can do in your life that could be abstracted from the financial gain that you might get out of it.
I think it's interesting because we have a culture where we think that money is the root of all evil, right? Like that's sort of banged in our heads, and I think it's a interesting misquote, because it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. So I mean, to think about how you build your relationship with money is really rooted deep, and money doesn't always necessarily mean joy.
Yeah.
What brings you joy?
Helping others. That's conclusively what brings me joy. I genuinely love helping, and the reason I say that is not because of any popularity contest that I want to win. I am a living example of how help comes back when you do it without any expectation. I often say this was one of the quotes that I had in my book, that if you help others with the expectation that they'll help you back, that's not help, that's a transaction. And very often people mistake transactions to be working out for them, but they may or may not. But if you end up helping people just for the sheer joy of helping them and for what is it that they could benefit from it, I have enough reasons to believe that it comes back to you in ways that you could not have expected. So I really find joy in helping people. It's just this, it's pure. I can't describe it. It's very pure when you help others.
Thinking about aspirations and dreams, when you think back to growing up, who were your role models? Or put another way, who did 15-year-old Ankur want to be when he grew up?
So while growing up, I was one of those rare kids in school, Aaron, that knew exactly what I wanted to do in life very early on. I was super clear of what I wanted to do. And my life was centered on 3 goals that I had for me. Goal number 1, go to the US to get a PhD degree. This was the place to be. I always wanted to become a scientist. I loved the sciences. So for me to go to the US to get a PhD degree was like the start of what life holds for me. So that was goal number 1. Goal number 2, as someone wanting to become a PhD student, I wanted to specialize in astrophysics, which is what I ended up doing. And with that PhD in astrophysics, I wanted to join NASA. That was my place to be. There was only one place that I ever wanted to work at growing up, and that was NASA. And I wanted to be a space scientist. And goal number 3, as funny as it may sound today, but this is the truth. As a space scientist working at NASA, there was only one place that I wanted to be at, and that was Mars. This is before Elon Musk has come into the picture. This is before any of those pop culture elements have come in, making Mars cooler than what it is today. This was just true middle-class ambition from India, wanted to go to the US to get a fine degree, become a space scientist, work at NASA, and then eventually be on Mars. Like that was a holy grail for any space enthusiast growing up in 1980s, 1990s. And singularly, every action, every thought, every waking second of my life was devoted towards these 3 things. And that's all that I cared about. And I was an intensely focused student, very, very primed to know what it takes to get to that point. That's what I started working towards. And this was the only thing that I ever cared about. So if you were to meet my friends from school or anyone else and like, hey, do you remember this geek, Ankur? And I'm like, yeah, we do. What do you remember of him? Like, he had to go to NASA. And that's all that they would remember about me, because that's all that there was to my identity and existence.
How close to NASA did you get?
Well, you know what? This is where I'm so stupid. I realized that to get into NASA, you need to be a US citizen. Duh.
I think we're all shocked at this moment.
And I didn't want to become one. So I was like, well, that's not happening. And I was enrolled into the PhD program for astrophysics at Michigan State. It was a 100% scholarship, which was frankly such a relief because that was the only way we could afford that education. I was a teaching assistant and then a research assistant for those 2 years. But over those 2 years, when I did realize that you had to become a US citizen to join NASA, and I went through the grind of becoming a doctoral student, I realized that that was not for me. And after a year or so, some very honest conversations with my professors, and they were lovely when they heard that, I decided to drop out of my PhD program, complete just my master's, and go back to India.
What did that feel like to have to say goodbye to that? I mean, you'd built your identity on it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that was easy.
I'd be lying if I said that it was hard. It was actually easy. And I'll tell you why, because this is how I operate. In my head, I will decide what I have to do, and I'll get to a point where I'll be very certain of what it takes to get to that point. But if at any point of time I realize that that's not the best use of my time, or I'm not going to be the best doing that, it's an instant U-turn or right turn or left turn or departure from what I'm doing for me to do something else. I'm not married to my identity, least of all what the world thinks that I should be doing. And that I genuinely believe is my superpower, where I'm not attached to anything that the world thinks of me, their opinion of me, or impacted by what they think of me. And I least of all care about how much time have I spent building an identity that I know will not feed well for me in the future. It's an instantaneous decision for me to say, you know what? This isn't working out for you. You're not going to be happy doing this. You certainly won't be the best doing at it. And then just move. That doesn't tell me where do I have to move to, but it certainly tells me that what I'm doing right now is not the best thing for me. And that was the realization that I had while at MSU. It taught me so much about myself. And I'm always going to be so grateful for the 2 years that I spent here, because I didn't travel. As I said, we didn't have any money, so the generous stipend that I still remember, my MSU FCU account used to be credited by $1248 every month, which was more money than my dad was earning after having worked 40 years of his life, literally giving everything that he had. And I was suddenly earning more than that as a student, doing, frankly, 20 hours of work, which is a joke. And all that I knew was I have to save most of what I can. So I stayed at Spartan Village, $450, split between two partners, $225, go to Myers, have a grocery bill of $20, $30 at best, didn't have a mobile phone, didn't travel, didn't have a car, didn't have anything, cooked at home every single day, became a great cook, invited other students to do that, but it's like, bring your own food and I'll just make mine. And it was just brilliant because I was so centered in just getting to know myself and my experience around MSU that I didn't distract myself from anything else. And over those 2 years, I realized what I'm doing is something that I'm really good at, but I'm not happy doing it. And for the first time in my life, it struck me that what you're good at and what makes you happy could be two different things. And the minute that happened, I was like, that was an aha moment, and that was it.
Tell us a little bit more about that. I want to dig a little bit deeper. What do you mean by that?
So the incident is, how many of you here are sciences students? Students of sciences? Yeah? Okay, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. I took a class, and this was in astrophysics. It was a really tough course. I think it was quantum mechanics, but I'm not so sure. And for those who have been trained in the Indian education system, and I do see a few of you here, there's something impeccable about the education system that most people don't recognize. We are trained methodically on how many days before the exam do you really need to start studying? And what do you study? What do you not study? What has come in the last 10 years? To know exactly what is likely to be asked in the next examination, to know exactly what is the answer to that, just memorize it, forget understanding it, comprehension is far away. In that 2-hour exam, just vomit whatever you have learned. You will know exactly how much you will score, you will know where you will rank in the class, and all that it matters is just your score, not your learning, not your comprehension. And of course, I don't mean it with any disrespect, but that was my training for 18 years in that system. So when I came to the US, I was just deploying that learning, and lo and behold, I was top of my class. I was a 4-pointer. My professors loved me. My students hated me. Everything was just happening clockwork. And I remember this one examination, quantum mechanics, last SEM exam. The professor asked this question. I have no idea what that question means. I have no idea what that means. But I know what the basis of that question is, which is a really complicated theorem that has come up in the recent past. And I had memorized that theorem. I knew it by heart. And all that I did, just wrote it down. Literally 3 pages of scientific proof of how you got to what is a mega recent discovery. And I was so proud of myself. And the professor graded it, and he wrote a note. He's saying, I'm so impressed because in 20 years of my teaching, I don't remember any student replicating this theorem the way that you have, immaculately, but I wonder how much of it do you truly understand? And oh my God, that was just a moment. I was like, he is right. He is just so right. I'm doing this clinically. I'm doing it as a robot, and I was good at it, not just in the memorizing thing, but I was really good at physics. I was really good at math. But it just didn't make me happy. So I got into that mode where I was just robotic about it. And I was just delivering it because it was required, and I was scoring so well in it that I didn't even stop to question it, and least of all my parents or anybody else in my world to question it, like, are you really doing it for the joy of it? So when these happened and there was a sequence of these events, I realized I was doing something that I was good at, didn't make me happy. These two could be distinct things. And if I'm not happy doing something, I can never be the best at it. If I'm not happy doing something, I can never be the best at it. And that was just it. It's like, quit, figure it out.
How did that professor, how did the rest of the semester go with that professor? I'm just curious. Like, was there a change in you that happened as well? Like,
thankfully, it was the last examination, so we didn't have to deal with it. And I think I still scored a 4-point on that. So because there was no basis for them to find any quote-unquote flaw in it, except the mature realization that I didn't know shit of what I was writing and talking about. But it was enough for me to realize that I was in the wrong, and I had to fix that.
And how did you fix it?
I didn't have the answer. What has worked very well for me, Aaron, in the past is when I recognize something's not working for me, I disconnect from that. And what that does is it gives me the space and time to think about what else could I do. What I find most people making the mistake is they continue to be in what they know is not working out, trying to look for something else that may be better, and when they find that better, then they quit. But what I think it does is it leaves with them this invisible safety net that they kind of know if things don't work out, they can always go back to, and they keep convincing themselves, you know what, if I just persist, it may work out. And it's not just true for professional, it's true for relationships, it's true for your career, it's true for your job, it's true for literally everything that you do in life where you are not happy doing it. You cannot lie any further to yourself that you're not happy. You know that you've done everything to evaluate whether you could be happy doing it, and you don't know of any other way. And you'll still be in it because you don't know what else will make you happy. And that doesn't work for me. I will quit, go through a motion of uncertainty, go through a period of just chaos, if you will, because I know that in that chaos, I will find something.
I think this segues perfectly into the question. So what do you think is your greatest weakness?
My greatest weakness is, I'm lying if I say that it's a weakness. I know deep within me it's a strength, but people see it as a weakness, is I'm cold-blooded to the point that I was referring to. I'm cold-blooded when it comes to taking decisions in life where I've spent an inordinate amount of my time and effort getting to a certain point and just within a second recognizing it's not working for me and saying, you know what, goodbye, move. And that could be relationships as well. It could be. I don't know how many of you have fired friends. I've fired a lot of friends. And I believe that one big mistake that most people do is they don't fire friends. We continue with friends, even though that relationship has turned toxic, it doesn't add anything to you. If anything, it's dragging you down. The friend's not growing as fast as you. You've gone on a completely new trajectory. You're seeing the world in a very different way. And the friends keep telling you, oh, you've changed, you've changed, you've changed. And if every time they keep saying that you've changed, it's them who hasn't while you have. But you'll still persist because the world keeps telling you, oh, don't lose out on your friends who were there with you. But I'll be like, you know what? It's just as my responsibility to be a great friend as it is theirs to be one. And if it's not working out, cut. If it's not working out, cut. And just move on. That doesn't mean I don't respect them or whatever it is that I was doing, but it's certainly something that I don't bear with. Life's too short to be living with decisions that you will regret living with.
Being lulled by comfort.
Yes, certainly. Don't get comfortable. That's my mecca in life. Just don't get comfortable. Just don't.
And I think a lot of folks are just like, don't rock the boat. Everything is fine. If I just keep treading water, it's totally fine. I'm comfortable here. It's not danger. But like, you're building yourself in a cycle that's not necessarily positive or that's going to push you forward. So how do you leverage your so thinking about your weakness, what is your greatest strength? And would you say that's the same?
It certainly would be. The ability to not be married to a certain identity that you want to persist with or continue with. But I think my shortest strength, I'd go to the extent of calling it my superpower, is my relationship with time. I'm a time management ninja. I control my time in a way that it will never leave my hands. I will never let anything or anybody dictate to me what I ought to be doing if I don't want to do it. I can achieve anything in life that I set my mind to because I know how to manage my time. It'll just be my choice of what I want to pursue and why not. And it's crazy how what it has taught me is that good things take time. Good things take time. And most of you who are in your 20s, just figuring life out, you're in college, this is a very cushioned environment. If you haven't figured, the day you're outside of college, the real world is vastly different from what you experience every day on campus. And you're nearly not prepared as much as you would believe that you are, that you know how the real world functions. You will certainly for the first few years, if not for a really long time in your professional career, be gripped by this need to achieve things overnight. You'll be consumed by the pace at which you achieve things as against the quality of what you're achieving. It'll be defining the way that you exist. And it's not your fault. It isn't. So don't blame yourself. But it's extremely important for you to be aware of it, that at the end of it, when you're 30, when you're 40, certainly when you're on your deathbed, you will recognize that the most precious things you value, that you're proud of, that truly gave you meaning, all of them took time. They didn't happen overnight. Whether it's your most precious relationships, whether it's your professional journey, your achievements, what you're proud of, how you've raised your kids, or how you've lived with a partner, or the choice that you didn't want to have one, anything of that, all of those would have taken time. It's not going to happen overnight. And as much as I would wish for you, while I know it wouldn't happen, the only wish that I would have for you is be patient. Just be patient. And patience means knowing that every single day that you spend doing and working towards something that you love will ultimately reap results, but you need to be at it. You just need to show up every day. Just show up every day.
What does being present every day look like for you?
It's to be acutely aware and intensely aware of where you're spending your time, why, and what does it do to you. That's it. That's my order. So I run an education company which has multiple online courses in it. The best-selling course that I have is of time management, because that's frankly one of the few things that I know in life. And an elaborate exercise after that course is over is a 30-day exercise, which is an exercise that will change your life if you were to follow it. Record every single hour of your day. Every single hour of your day. And write down what is it that you did, whether it was something that was important, or whether it was something that was just urgent, and then how did it make you feel once you did it. And do that for 30 days. For 30 days. I guarantee every single one of you in this hall, if you were to do this exercise for 30 days, you will change as a person. You will know intensely and in a way that you've never known before, where does your time go? What do you make of it? How does it make you feel? And for the first time, perhaps in your life, you'll be aware of what does it do to you. I started doing that when I was 13. And it was because of this ambition that I had. And I knew that it was well outside of my capacity to even think of going to the US, and that too on 100% scholarship, because as I said, that was the only way that we could afford it, and to become a NASA scientist and all that. So I needed to have this grip over my time so that I was investing in it the right way. So I started documenting on a notebook, because there was nothing else. There was no app. There was nothing to track. There was no computer that we had, nothing whatsoever. So on a notebook, I used to record every single day, wake up at 7, 7 to 8 this, 8 to 9 this, 9 to 10 this, da 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 da. And I did that till I was 26. For 13 years, I have logged every single hour of my life. Like, I would know exactly what I was doing on the 12th of April, 2002/2003, when I was at Michigan State. I just need to go back to my notebooks, and I will know exactly what I was doing at 6:34 p.m.
That's
what those 13 years did is that I knew exactly where I want to spend my time. That was it. And I've been doing that ever since.
I have to make a confession at this moment, because to prepare for this interview, I spent about 8 hours with you in my head doing gardening at the same time.
Thank you.
Confession. No, thank you. It was wonderful. When I was listening to Do Epic Sheep, for me, that part with telling us about this and keeping control, it gave me so much anxiety. I don't know, I mean, if I were to catalog, I think I'd be anxious to find out exactly what is going on. And I don't know if I could face that. Yeah. How do you face that?
It was just the reality. One is you face it. And two is what you do about it. And you have two options. You can become the ostrich, just dig your head in the ground and be like, not happening. I'm just oblivious to it. Or two is, well, if it's telling me something, let's see if I can fix it. And as I said, again, you don't have to fix it overnight. You just fix it. You just start one step at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time, one day at a time, just show up every day. And lo and behold, it will fix itself. It will. But if you just are paralyzed by the thought of how it would make you feel, and it certainly will be an uncomfortable feeling in the beginning, as would be anything new that you start in your life, you'll struggle to make that change. You'll just, and you may then end up doing things that you may not want to. And that was certainly not something that I wanted to find myself in.
I would be embarrassed to find out how much time I actually spend on social media. That's a ginormous time suck. And I think it's an enormous time suck for everybody.
It would be. It would be. How many of you here would conclusively, to the nearest 10 minutes, know how much time you spent on social media yesterday? How many of you would know that? Conclusively to the nearest 10 minutes that you spent on social media yesterday? Yeah, less than 3%. Less than 3%. It's scary, right? It's scary in the sense that, and particularly when it comes to social media, and I have a strong point of view on that, and which is hypocritical because I create content on social media. What we don't recognize is that the best engineers in the world are working 24/7 to ensure that when we open up TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, we are hooked. And we all believe that, oh, no, it's my self-control. Like, I will choose when to stop. No. Somebody's figured that shit out, and they're gaming that. So you have no hope in hell. The only thing that they're hoping is you tire yourself out. And then you're like, I can't do this anymore. Because it still requires you to swipe up or left or right. And they're like, well, let's move on to eyelids tomorrow. And they'll be like, okay, I'll just blink and then I'll just move up. And the next they'll be just reading my face. And if I'm still excited, they will just swipe up. It's endless. It's not going to stop. The only way that you stop that, which is my recommendation, by the way, if you feel that you're addicted to social media, is just, almost all of you, I assume, have an iPhone. And if you do, just put a time blocker on the app that you find yourself wasting most time on. And you put a passcode on that. And that passcode is not set by you, but your friend. And a friend who hates you so much that they'll never give it to you. Because that's the only way out. It isn't about self-restraint. It's about just cutting access. Cutting access. And you know that works. That works everywhere else. Like if you're,
What intrigues me, though, is how does your view of time, or how you deal with time, how does that influence the way that you create content? Do you feel responsibility for also helping other people being able to manage their time?
Yeah, I do. I need to ensure that I build maximum leverage for my time, because my time is, in my opinion, the most valuable asset I have, and frankly, the only asset that I have. And that's why every single hour has to be devoted to maximize whatever is it that I aim to be. So what I will do is, and this was interesting, it was a conversation that was happening on Twitter recently, where people are like, when we see the most successful people, often, they tend to be micromanagers. Like they're really anal about how things are done, and they're very particular about it, and all of this is like this Steve Jobbish cult where you need to be precise, but you also need to be very intensely devoted to how you want things, and you know accurately, and then you don't like people who don't do it that way, blah, 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 blah. And that's almost, particularly in the startup world, the way that you tend to define success. Whether it's Elon Musk or it's Jeff Bezos or anything like that. So the question that was floating was, is micromanagement the only way to success? And I remember answering yes, but I said the big departure from that is, you could spend your time micromanaging people, or you could spend your time micromanaging processes or tools. I spend my time micromanaging processes and tools. I don't want to micromanage people, because people are adults and they hate being micromanaged, and they don't want to be. They certainly don't want somebody breathing down their neck. But I will devote every single waking hour of mine to ensure that the process that they have to follow is designed in such a way that it sets them up for success. And that will be intensely hard because you will have to devote a lot. You'll have to keep iterating. You'll have to make sure that you're adjusting that, improving that, making sure that it's reflective of what the reality is. But that's where I spend my time. I spend my time designing systems and tools that then allow people to do everything that they have to do in the best manner possible. And that's why we have a completely asynchronous way of working. We have a team that's spread all across the country. We only meet once a quarter. There is no office. It's fully remote. There are no meetings. We only meet for 1 hour every week on a Monday evening. And that's the only time we're synchronously together. Everyone does independent work. They know exactly what they have to do. They know exactly how they're graded. They know exactly what's expected. And it all follows a process or a system that comes together at the end of it. And I'm a part of it. I'm a part of that machinery, which is also designing the machinery. So that's where I spend my time. And that brings maximum leverage for whatever is it that I spend my time on.
You're amazing.
Thank you.
I'm like, where do I go from here? No, the one question I do have is, when did you begin to think of yourself as an entrepreneur, or have you always thought of yourself as an entrepreneur?
This is my favorite story. The story is how I got my first laptop in life. I got my first laptop in life at the age of 22, which was while I was at MSU. I'd never owned a computer before. For the first year at MSU, the only computer I had was my office computer, so the department was generous enough to give me one, and that's why I spent like 20 hours of my day just in office, because I knew if I went back home, I wouldn't have anything of that. So I was like, I have to get a laptop. As a physics student, your textbooks tend to be insanely expensive. Back then, they were upwards of $100. I don't know what the price is today, but certainly it was very expensive back then. All of these books have an Asian edition, which are paperbacks. They are for like $10. So I went back home that summer, and I carried 2 suitcases with me, one with clothes, one which was empty. Then I went to the biggest wholesale book market that there is in Delhi. I picked up the best-selling physics books that were there in my curriculum, bought them all for $10. I bought about, I think, 50 of them or something. So $500 was a big investment to make. And I put them in the luggage, came back to the US, and listed them on eBay as second-hand books to buy for $40 a piece, which was a 60% discount to the entire MRP of that. What I didn't know is whether that was legal or not.
The lines are blurred.
And I was like, let's hope. By the time I decided that I will be dropping out, so I was like, you know what, by the time the FBI gets to me, my F1 would not make any sense. And I was like, let's take that gamble. I list those books up. In 2 weeks, I sell all the 50 books. I make $2,000, of which $500 was my expense, so $1,500. Back then, laptops were really expensive, and I remember I bought my first HP laptop for $1,300. And after I went through the exercise, I recognized it was illegal, but nothing happened. And then, remarkably so, in 2006, God bless, a student from Indonesia did the exact same thing, and Wiley Brothers, which is one of the biggest publishers of scientific journals, they sued him because he made over $300,000 doing this. And then the US federal court actually delivered the judgment in favor of the student, saying it should be okay for books to be sold anywhere in the country or in the world, irrespective of their origin. Long story short, I don't think that entrepreneurship is a profession.
Right.
I don't think it's a job. I don't think just because you start a company, you are an entrepreneur or not. I think entrepreneurship is a way of mind. It's a way of thinking. You could be an entrepreneur while still at work. You could be an entrepreneur while never starting a business, because it's solely defined by how you think and how you approach things. And whether you have the ability or even the intent of breaking the norms that have so far defined your conduct. Not because you want to do something illegal, it's because you're just questioning why they came up in the first place or not. So to answer your question, I didn't know that I was an entrepreneur until I formally started one. But when I did that, I was like, well, I'm doing the same things that I was doing normally in life as well, because it's just a way of doing things and approaching things. And today I recognize that entrepreneurship is just something that you build as a way of thinking about things. And it's an art that you develop over time as part of your upbringing, your experience, your exposure, and of course your own willingness to change.
Can you, because I'm looking at the time here and I want to make sure that I'm respecting everyone's time. Can you tell us about what it's like to be a founder or a co-founder?
Okay. How many of you here are already running a startup? Anyone here? Few of you. How many of you wish to run a startup? Okay, quite a few of you. For those who are already running it, maybe you experience it or not already, but this was the most shocking revelation for me when I became a founder. I say this often, entrepreneurship is the most brutal form of self-discovery. What I mean by that is, when was the last time any one of you bought anything from a company because the founder went to Stanford or Harvard or MIT or any of this fancy place? Do you care? No, you don't. When was the last time you bought a product or a service from a company because they had raised $20 million from Sequoia Capital? Couldn't care less. When was the last time you bought any product or service from a startup because you felt sorry for the founder who hadn't drawn a salary for the last 6 months? Couldn't care less. You just couldn't care less. What you want is, does the product or service work for me? And if it does, I'll give you my money, my time, my attention. If it doesn't, too bad, try harder. Most people are not used to that. Most people are used to life working out for them because of the school that they went to, the grades that they got, the people that they know, the money they have. And entrepreneurship will tell you that there is only one determinant of success, the market, nothing else. And that hits hard. That hits hard. Because for the first time, you recognize that you don't mean shit. And everybody is only going to measure you basis the product or the service that you've built for them. You could be the smartest person in the room, and people will still hate you. You could not be the smartest person in the room, and people might still love you. And that is not something that most people are ready for. So when I say you're going to become a founder soon, and I really hope that most of you who want to become a founder go on to become one, just recognize it's not going to work out for you just because you got up one day and wanted to become a founder. Just because you start a company, no one owes you any money. Certainly not the VCs, and certainly not the customer. Just because you got up one day and you decided to do an idea that has been done by thousands, if not more people already, but you think you will do it better. No, there's a reason why all of those haven't worked in the past, and you ought to then pay your respect towards understanding why it hasn't happened. So being a founder is nearly not as cool and sexy as it makes out to be, and it's nearly not as exciting as the media will project it. It is really hard, and I often say this, here are the 3 worst reasons why you should start up. Number 1, you want to start up because you want to make money. No, it's not going to happen. The odds are against you. You are far likelier to make more money as a professional growing up the corporate ladder than you are as a founder. It's easy to be driven by survivorship bias where you'll read about all the founders making billions of dollars, but you're only hearing about people who made it. 99% failed to even get to that point, and you will never hear about them. So don't start up because you want to make money. Don't start up because you hate your current life. Oh, I hate my job, I hate my boss, I hate my life, I want to get out of it. I want to start up because I need a change. That's the worst idea or the reason to do anything new, by the way. And number 3, which is particularly today than ever before, don't start up because everyone else is starting up. Don't be driven by FOMO. It almost always will drive you towards the wrong decisions. You start up because, I'll actually say you start up because you're crazy. You start up because you know that there is a 10% chance of success, or 1% chance of you making that success convert into monetary outcomes, a 0.1% chance of you gaining popularity, success, status alongside the money that you will make. And any wise person would not play those odds. You would not ever enter a casino where I told you that the odds of you winning are 0.1%. You wouldn't. You would be smart about that. So the only reason why you actually go down that trajectory is because you are in some way irrationally optimist. And the irrational piece is somehow the more important one than the optimist one. And I wish you all that irrational optimism. I do, because if you find that within you, then you could very well go on to define and change the world in a way that you never thought. But if you're rational, or worse, if you're a pessimist, it's okay not to be a founder. It's totally cool. I often say this, it's totally okay to have a 9-to-5 job. The most successful, happiest, financially stable, predictable individuals that you have are the ones who have done it the right way and are gainfully happy right now. And you don't have to be a founder. Not everyone has to be a founder.
So, as someone who has been, is a founder, have you ever experienced, and a fellow Spartan alum and entrepreneur, Jeff Ellman, said this, he called it the trough of sorrow. You're nodding as though you feel that deeply. What does that phrase mean to you?
It means so many things. I instantly have events coming into my mind. Yeah, we certainly go to the trough of sorrow is a reality. I believe the biggest one that I experienced was when 2 years into running Nearby, we were running out of money. I'd made some really bad calls as a CEO. We were then about a 400 people company, and I had to lay off 80 people of that, which is about 25%, for no fault of theirs. And it was devastating. It was so hard to see them go through what I made them go through for no fault. And I just couldn't deal with that for the longest time. And it took me a lot to get to a point where I knew that I had to still be showing up for the business and the 300 people who were still there in the setup. But that changed me in ways that I didn't expect. And thankfully, we survived, and we're all good friends. And we recently had a reunion of Nearby, everyone who's ever worked before. And it's fascinating that of the 400 odd people that we had at that point of time, about 280 showed up. Most of them, the ones who were laid off, because they were still graciously happy about the experience that they had, and they had fond memories of it. And that just tells me that we built something right, even though the financial outcomes weren't so great.
What do you think, and this is my last question before I turn it over to the audience, what do you think is the most important job of a founder?
Oh, culture and hiring. Culture and hiring, culture and hiring, nothing else. You bring the right set of people, so you spend an inordinate amount of time selecting the right kind of people through your hiring process, and then you define a culture where the best talent prospers, the not so good talent is weeded out regularly, and you just have this flywheel where only the ones who are in it, not necessarily the ones that are best performing, because performance is often a measurement that's hard to measure, but people who are right, people who are the right value system, the right mindset, the right temperament, genuine curiosity, you just have those. And if you do that, then the flywheel just works. It works almost always. There's no reason that it wouldn't.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. I want to take just a second to see if anybody has any questions they want to ask of Ankur. It's audience time. Anybody got a question? Go ahead. Go ahead and, yes, you. Stand up and scream it out.
Okay, earlier you hear me? You mentioned that entrepreneurship is a state of mind. So for someone like getting into that, what would you suggest, like getting yourself into that, kind of first steps?
Sure. That's a good question. If entrepreneurship is a state of mind, what are the first steps that you could take to build that? My immediate advice there would be question everything. The next time you're at a mall or a store, question why the products are arranged the way that they are. Question why the prices are the way they are. Question why the teller said the words that they did. Question why there was a sequence to those words. Because almost always, everything is driven by how humans react to whatever it is. But if you begin to question, not with the intent of disturbing the equilibrium, if you will, but instead of just trying to get to the core principle that drove that action, you will surprisingly find yourself building that mindset where it'll become second order. And suddenly then you will do the same things, say at your work, where if your boss gives you a job, you won't be like, oh, if I do this job right, I will be a high performer. You will question, why did they give me that job in the first place? It's not what the output is that they expect from me. It's what the outcome is that they expect from me. And that outcome will define you at a much better and higher order than the output that you are mandated to deliver on. And that will set you up in the entrepreneurial mode. Because what you will then come up with will be unpredictable. Your boss told you, hey, do these XYZ things, but you figured what the outcome was that they wanted, and you got them to that point where you came up with a completely new solution to what they expected, and we're like, oh my God, that's fascinating, but I love you even more because if you were to do that every single time that I gave you something, there is no way that you are now dispensable. You aren't. You're such a solid part of here because I love the unpredictability with which you bring positive outcomes to your work. And that's it. You're an entrepreneur. And the day you decide to start your own company, you'll find it so easy to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, and then you. Yeah. Sorry, no, I let you, and then you. You go ahead first, please.
Thank you for the kind.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, what made you pivot towards administration and running the business side of companies?
Okay.
Starting with astrophysics.
Got it. So what made me pivot from astrophysics to business? I answered why I left astrophysics. The question that I'll try to answer is, why did I pick up business? The honest answer is, because I didn't know any better. I was completely confused of what to do in life. And my friends were like, hey, you're confused, so why don't you do what most confused people do? Go get an MBA. And I had so many of my friends go through those 2 years of an MBA and figuring out what it is and so on. It's like, well, let's try and do that. And as luck would have it, I came across this fascinating school in India. It was only 5 years old, 1-year program, but a bunch of work experience people who would be part of the program if I did get through. And I applied to that, and that really changed me. But did I know going in that that would be something that I should be doing or wanted to do? No. I was in a complete exploration mode. And if it didn't work out for me, I'd try something else. And I tried something else, and I tried something else. I lucked out that the first thing I tried worked out for me. But I didn't know that it would. I know it doesn't help, but yeah, that was the way it was. Yeah. Please, I'll come to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you mentioned that in order to start a company and found it, you have to be somewhat crazy. Like, how would you use that, like, to your advantage, like the craziness to your advantage in your situation?
So to be a founder, when I say that you have to be somewhat crazy, how do you use that to your advantage? You use that to your advantage because let me explain this with an example. Let's say you are a doctoral student at Michigan State University on 100% scholarship, top of your class, doing something that you always wanted to do, really good at it, but you're not quite happy doing it. And if you were to float a survey into the world, hey, at this point of time, what do you think you should be doing? What do you think 99% of people would say? What do you think they would say? Continue going. You know what, it's just a phase, it's just okay, you'll be fine, continue going. What the craziness allows you to do is to defy the obvious. Actually, defiance is a strong word, is to resist the obvious. I just want to resist the obvious. There's a very obvious path that is strikingly clear to most of us, wherever we are in life. The obvious path that 90% of the world will choose. If you were to follow that same path, you will end up where 90% of the world is. It's a fundamental law. If you were to operate with all the information that everyone else has, you will end up where everyone else is. You cannot have an abnormal or a supernormal result deviant from what the world has if you played the same cards that they did. So the only hope in hell you have of getting an outcome outside of what the world is getting is to do something that is outside of the obvious. And the craziness allows you to make it easy to resist the obvious. You're like, I'm not going to do that.
Well said.
Yeah. Please.
So, hi, I'm Shresh. I'm from India as well.
Nice to meet you.
So you have recently got a lot of new followers in YouTube as well. You've been awarded the Hindustan Times 2022 award as well for the best influencer. So, how do you think is like social media been for you recently, and how should one strive to get better at social media as you did recently?
So how has social media been for me, and how do you suggest one deals with social media if one wants to become a creator?
Yeah.
Or that. One, social media for me has been extremely gratifying. I use it as a power as against a weakness because I'm not addicted to it. I control my time on it. I know how to operate it. And I'm creating content that I'm proud of, something that I know is designed to help people, and I hope that people do get helped by that, or at least feel that it's helpful. But it's been immensely gratifying. It's opened up a world that I didn't know existed for me and I could be a part of. And the only thing that's got me to that point, and it's not just true for social media, it's true for, frankly, anything that you do in life, are two things: authenticity and consistency. If you're authentically consistent, things will work out for you. Because one, it's extremely hard to be consistent. And just showing up every day is you in the top percentile of the world. Just showing up every day. You don't have to be a rock star. You don't have to be an expert. Just the fact that you showed up every day sets you up in the top percentile of the world. But the only way that you can afford to show up every day is if you do something that's authentically you. You can't put up a facade every day. You can't be somebody else every day and still be consistent. You have to do something that you find natural to do. So if you're creating content, or if you're in a job, or if you're picking up a career, or if you're picking up a new hobby or a new passion or whatever it is, the only way that you will win is to be consistent. And the surest way to be consistent is to be authentic. So just pick up something that comes naturally to you, or you know is a part of you that still hasn't been perhaps discovered, but you know can be groomed into becoming one. And if you do that, then that's it. You're ahead of the pack. Because people are just pretending. Most of the world is just pretending to be somebody else. And that means they're not going to be consistent. Simple. And I'll beat them at that. I don't have to be Roger Federer. I don't have to be the best at anything that I do. I just need to show up every day. And I'll be ahead of the pack for most people. Unless, of course, you want to be number one. Like Roger Federer just couldn't show up every day. Like he had to. But if you just show up every day, you're in the top percentile of the world. I believe there was a question. Yes, perfect. And I'll come to you. Go ahead. No, you? Yeah. Yes.
So you have so many phases in your life. Can you any time wish to go back in time and fulfill some of your unfulfilled ambitions?
Oh, not at all.
For instance, would you like to work for NASA today if you're offered a position?
I wouldn't be offered a position, number one. But no. I'll expand that. Do I have any regrets in life? Absolutely not. I am here in life because of all the things that I did. So I wouldn't want to change anything because I love my life right now. And I'm not sure of what will happen if I were to tinker around with things that I did in the past. I will go to Mars, 100%. I'm budgeting for that. And I really hope that SpaceX does its job really well, that it makes it like $10,000 a return trip or something, because that's my budget. But no, yeah, I will certainly. My wife's scared that it will be a one-way ticket, but I've promised her that I'll make it a return. But I think if I like it, I might just stay. I will go to Mars for sure.
Thank you.
Sure. And then I'll come to you. Yes, go ahead.
Nice to meet you. My name is Yuvraj. So, also being an international student from India, it gives me immense pride.
Thank you.
To see somebody from my home country here. So that's great. Coming to my question, as you mentioned, entrepreneurship is a state of mind, and you can train yourself and you can build yourself and you can discipline and be an entrepreneur. But as you also mentioned, 99% of people fail. They don't make it to the top billionaires, right? So how do you reconstruct yourself from thinking like an entrepreneur, or how do you break from that bondage?
It's an honest question. So let me broaden the question. How do you keep evolving to whosoever you want to become? Whether it's an entrepreneur, whether it's anything else, like that's immaterial. But how do you keep evolving as an individual? And generally, the only answer that I can give, which is frankly the only answer that I have, is you cannot be married to your own identity at any point of time. Like, ego is the biggest obstacle to learning. It is the biggest obstacle to learning. So if you're like, oh, I know everything, or I know better, or this is great, there's nothing else to know, that's it, game over. That's it. There's nothing else that will come your way. But if you're like, I'm a student, and I am. I love being a student. I love asking questions. I'm curious, and I love observing. And I was telling this to Chris, like, this is a setup that I don't like because I'm just hearing my own voice. But I know all the shit that I'm talking about, right? So there's nothing new that I've learned. Not to suggest that I'm not enjoying this, right? So, sorry, I didn't want to make it come like that. And it's wonderful, but I would much rather be you right now and be hearing someone else who's like, oh, I got 5 new things to learn from. And my second book, the dedication of that book is dedicated to all my teachers, most of whom do not know me. Because that's my truth. I have learned from people who have no idea of my existence. Absolutely not. And I've just learned observing them. I've learned hearing them, watching them, reading them, listening to them. And I think that's as simple as that. If you are not married to who you are, and you don't have a set notion of what you want to be and what your identity is, you're formless. And what I would love for you to do, if you do want to spend 2 lovely minutes, not on TikTok today, but something else, go on YouTube and search for Bruce Lee Water. Just search for that, Bruce Lee Water. It's a really long interview, but those 2 minutes are magical. It's where Bruce Lee, who was a famous martial arts instructor and actor, talks about how we should be water. And I wouldn't give away what he says, but it's that interview just defines my life. I think I have one last question from the lady who...
Besides your own books, are there any other books that you recommend for an entrepreneurial mindset or overall well-being?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be... besides my own books, are there any? No. 5 books that every college student should read. Number 1, Atomic Habits. This is not in any order. Atomic Habits, James Clear. Brilliant book. Will tell you how small additions to your life can add up to meaningful changes. Incredible, pick that up. Number 2, Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel. Most of us have a very poor understanding of money. Least of all, how do we react to money and what is our relationship with money? The book does a brilliant job of that. Please pick it up. Number 3, particularly for the founders here or the entrepreneurship mindset individuals, The Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. He's the partner at A16Z. It's a wonderful book about founder and entrepreneurship, but the non-glamorous way, the hard thing about hard things. So pick that up. Number 4, the book that fundamentally changed me when I read it, a book called Rework by Jason Fried. It's questioning everything that we know about work and challenging the status quo. Incredible book that I love. And Number 5, no, that's not a recommendation I would make to a 20-year-old. Okay, here's a book which is a departure from the topic. I read this when I was 21, and I love the book for what it did to me. Tuesdays with Morrie. Mitch Albom. Beautiful about what is truly life. If you read these 5 books, I think that could be a great start.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you all. What a gift. What a gift. Though we are done for this evening, please join us at Burgess New Venture Challenge tomorrow. Ankur will be there as well, I believe.
Yes.
I do know that you have a meeting at 7:30, so I don't want to go on too much. But please come to the Burgess New Venture Challenge, pre-register, show up, and celebrate all of the wonderful entrepreneurs who are your peers. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Go
All
Green.
the best. Thank you. Thank you.